I'll introduce her first. Okay.
Let me make her the host.
Okay.
And then go for it.
I got a little intro for her first, Lisa.
Yeah,
so it's
ahead.
such an honor to have Stephanie Shaughnessy here with us tonight, ladies, and hopefully some gentlemen will be listening as well, whatever. But we've got some great value to add tonight. And Stephanie, when I asked her what she's most passionate about, she said, hands down, I love training about the Enneagram. And that's something that I've always kind of been interested in, but I've never taken the time to learn it. And so she's going to give us like the really beginner's guide. And she actually made an incredible PDF for us. And so I'll share that in the chat. It's a Canva link. So hopefully you can just open that up and print it out or save it or whatever. I'm not sure how that works, but it's awesome. And Stephanie, she was a law enforcement officer, super tough, awesome, amazing chick for 15 years. And she had major gut health issues, mostly related to stress, which is a definite like gut disruptor, right? So she had all kinds of issues and she got introduced to Plexus. I believe when you said first baby, Steph?
Yes.
And now 11 years in?
Yes. First and
so
only.
Amazing.
Yeah.
First and only. Aw, so sweet. And so 11 years in, and she is a 3-star diamond and a diamond reentry. And so she's got some great value to add. And I know she put a lot of effort into this training. So I hope that we'll all like really take notes and pay attention and be able to utilize this. So thank you, Stephanie. We are so grateful to you for doing this for us.
Of course. Listen, it's always an honor when other leaders in Plexus ask me to come into something like this and pour into their teams and love on their people. I don't take that lightly. So I'm honored to be here. I want to just tell you guys the challenge for me is just going to be to keep this in under 30 minutes. I do workshops here locally on the Enneagram. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and I've done one as recent as just a couple months ago for a marketing company here. It's a tool, nothing more. It's a means, not an end. But I know I can say this to all of you guys because you're leaders, you're entrepreneurs, you're doing this business. This is a personal growth journey. And everybody started saying that to me from the moment that I started this. And so the Enneagram was something when I initially picked it up, I thought it was kind of complicated. I didn't really understand it. I came back to it a year or two later. And it's something that I wish I would have had throughout my entire life, to be honest. It's helped me tremendously in my professional life, in leading my Plexus teams. It's helped me in my marriage. It's helped me in parenting. And I always say this to everybody. If you were on a journey to lose some weight and get in shape, build muscle, CrossFit might be the answer for you. Pilates might be the answer for you. You know, whatever it is, it is. So the Enneagram has been that for me. So I hope if you're somebody tonight, you're like, I have no idea what the heck this is. Perhaps you can walk away tonight. Just maybe it will resonate with you. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. Anything, whatever tool it is, vessel, training, book, podcast, whatever it is that helps us get closer to that better, higher version of ourselves, like let's just lean into that, right? So I just want to say it's a tool, nothing more, nothing less. But it's a powerful tool for self-discovery. So I know you guys have probably heard of Myers-Briggs, Strengths Finders. When I was in law enforcement, I took something called the MMPI, Minnesota Multi-Phase Personality Inventory. Basically 6 hours of asking you 10 questions worded, a million different ways to make sure that, you were qualified to carry a firearm, things like that. I've always been somebody very interested in personality and assessments and stuff like that. So with this one, what is unique about the Enneagram is it's not just about who you are. The Enneagram is why you do the things you do. Each of us, there are 9 types, numbers 1 through 9. And no matter what type you are, each of us have an unconscious motivation that we move through life with. That an unconscious motivation that guides us that just really dictates how we act, think, feel, and show up in the world. Okay. There's no one type better than the other. But that's truly what is so special about the Enneagram is it's why you do the things you do. Sometimes people will say to me, Steph, what type do you think Whitney is? Or what type do you think Lisa is? And I'm like, I have no idea. It's about why you do the things you do. It's not just your overall personality. So you can be an introvert or an extrovert and be each type, you know, there's so many nuances to it. You can't just point at somebody and say, you know, I guarantee she's an 8 or she's a 7. And not to mention, you guys, I want to say this is really important. Somebody who I admire in the Enneagram world has said, this is a journey of self-discovery, not declaration. Meaning, I or anybody else should not be telling you what your type is, right? This is a journey for you to determine what your type is. There are assessments, there are books, there are coaches, there are all the things that can help you understand it more or lean one way or the other. But no matter what type you land on, that is your decision. I want to say that. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. I created some slides because I don't know, this is so much information. I don't know how to do it without slides, but I want to tell you this, I'm going to put the slides in the chat so you guys can have these slides. Because if you're like me and you want to take notes, I get stressed out trying to write so fast before the next slide. And I wanted you guys just to be able to be fully present because this is a lot of information. And yeah, so they're yours. So no sweat with that. So let me share my screen here and we'll just jump right into it. Okay. So a little bit about me. This is my Instagram handle. I'm really trying over the last year or two, I've tried to kind of rebrand myself more, all things Enneagram there. And the only reason I share this with you is because if you go into my bio there, I have my own assessment. It's free. If you've never taken an assessment before, I think the one I have is pretty darn accurate. It's actually through the school that I got certified in. I have a couple certifications in the Enneagram, and this is from a school that's in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a husband and wife company. They're really great. It's they're actually called Your Enneagram Coach. So I wanted to share that. If you want a link to the assessment, go to the link in my bio on my Instagram, and you can take that, and it gives you an automatic result. So what is it? And I've kind of said this. This is just a personality typing system that describes people's motivations, patterns, and how they manage their emotions. There's 9 personality archetypes. Unlike most personality assessments, like I said, the Enneagram's not as much about who you are, it's why you do the things you do. Have you guys ever seen that movie? What is it called? God, it just slipped my brain. My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I know it's kind of older, but I love this movie. And I want to say the first one, there's like 3 versions of it or 3 parts to it, but the first one came out like in the 90s. But the dad in that movie, throughout the movie, he says, give me a word, any word, and I'll show you how that word is Greek. Lisa's shaking her head. You know what I'm talking about. So the Enneagram, the word the part out of Enneagram means 9, and gramos or gram simply means something written or a figure. That's where the word came from. This is an overview of each of the types. I'm going to cover each of these types very quickly tonight, and I'm going to tell you what their superpower is when it comes to being in a network marketing business. So one of the guys that I like to follow, and I meant to throw that out there, I'll just say that to you, and I can put this in the chat too. Somebody in the Enneagram world that I love to follow is a guy named Ian Cron. His last name is spelled C-R-O-N, Ian Cron. He wrote a book, he has several books, but he wrote a book called The Road Back to You. And anytime somebody is stepping into this or wanting to learn more about it, I bet you I've sent 30 copies of this book to people. This is the book I tell everybody to get when they want to learn more about the Enneagram. I love it because he lays it out for you for each type, what you look like when you're healthy, what you look like when you're in an average lane, and what you look like when you're not healthy. And I'm not talking about like health or the size of your waistband per se. I'm talking like in a good place in your personality, the healthiest expression of your personality. So he has really kind of appropriated the name for ones, and he calls them improvers. So I have been using that name. I love that name. Traditionally, ones are called perfectionists. And I think there's a little bit of a negative connotation with perfectionists sometimes. They're also called reformers, but I love the name improvers for ones because that's truly what ones are. 2s, helpers, 3s, achievers, 4, individualists, 5 investigators, 6 loyalists, 7s are the enthusiasts, 8s challengers, 9 are the peacemakers. I'm going to go through each one of these, but for visual purposes, there are, no matter what type you are only one type, and that is your type. A question I get asked a lot is, could I have been a type? Like maybe I was a 1 when I was in my early 20s, but now that I'm in my 40s, I'm a 7. No, because you're 1, the type you are is the type that you are. It does not change. There's probably a part of each of these types that resonate with you, and that's completely normal because we have a little bit of all of these types in us, you guys. But remember when I said, when it comes down to the core motivation of why you do the things you do, therefore you are just one type. You have wings, and think of it like wings of a bird. If you're talking to people that are very familiar with the Enneagram, they may tell you, like myself, I'm a 5 wing 6. So I'm a 5, that's my type. I lean very heavily into my 6, more so than my wing 4. And that's part of the work I'm trying to do with myself, honestly, through the Enneagram, is to lean more into that wing that I don't use so much. Your wings are the numbers that you are right smack dab in the middle of. Because sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll say, oh, I'm an 8 with a wing 2. No, you're an 8 either with a wing 9 or a wing 7. Your wings are the numbers right next to you. And consider this like kind of like the salt and pepper of your personality. You pull a lot of attributes of those 2 types into your personality. So your wings are the numbers that you're sandwiched right in between of. So unless any of you on this call or any of you guys that listen to this afterwards, we're all human beings here, obviously, unless you're an alien, you have all 3 of these in your body. These are the 3 body's centers of intelligence: the gut, the head, and the heart. 3 types, 8s, 9s, and 1s are in the gut, 5, 6s, and 7s are in the head, and 2s, 3s, and 4s are in the heart. What does that mean, Steph? We have access to all 3 of these because we all have all 3, right? Depending on your type, you are really, really comfortable in one of them. So me being a 5, I have to really work, and this may sound silly to some of you, especially if you're in the heart triad, if you're a 2 or 3 or 4, I have to really work hard. When somebody says, Steph, how do you feel? What are you feeling about this? I naturally go to what I think and telling people what I think. That's part of the work that you do in this, is understanding that, leaning into those other 2 centers of intelligence that you have, but we're super comfortable in one. 8s, 9s, and 1s in the gut triad tend to go from like gut instinct, body, just response type people. 2s, 3s, and 4s in the heart triad vary around, around the heart and how they respond and naturally, instinctively show up for things. So there's a core emotion associated with each of these triads. For the gut triad, for 8s, 9s, and 1s, the core emotion is anger. For the heart, it's shame, or sometimes people refer to it as sadness. And for the head triad, it's fear. So what does that mean? Each 3 of these types, one of these in the triad externalizes this emotion, one internalizes it, and one is asleep to it or they deny it. In the gut triad, 8s externalize their anger. They don't have a problem being angry at all. Matter of fact, most 8s I know, just in their everyday conversation with people, sound angry. Where if you don't know that this person's an 8, you might be thinking, gosh, why do they sound so angry? That's just the way that they talk sometimes, like that's an 8. They're very intense. They have the most energy out of everybody on the Enneagram. I was trying to think in my head, I don't know that many Jules Enneagram types, but I can tell you off the top of my head, I know Melissa Eichenhorst is an 8 and Amy Paul is an 8. So if that gives you some kind of frame of reference, Lisa's shaking her head and laughing. Yes, they're 8s. They're intense. They're going to tell you, they're going to get on the mic and they're going to tell you what they're thinking. 1s internalize their anger. For 1s, and I'm married to a 1 and I have a level 1 Sapphire who's a 1. And I will say 1s almost feel like it's inappropriate to get angry. It's not that they can't get angry, they most certainly can, but they internalize it. And for 1s, it comes up as resentment or angst, but they internalize it. 9s, the peacemaker, they're asleep to it. They deny it. They're all about harmony, kumbaya, no conflict. So they don't want to talk about anger. In the heart triad, twos externalize it. They wake up every day thinking about other people. These are your yellow personalities. For those of you guys that remember the color personalities in this, yellows, your quintessential BFF, and I'm going to talk about this as I go through each type. They wake up every day thinking about other people as a way of not to kind of not think and deal with the shame or sadness. Fours internalize it. Fours are people that are very in tune with their feelings. They can almost name their feelings, very in tune with their feelings. Threes, they deny any feelings of shame or sadness. They chase success or goals to avoid it. In the head triad, sixes, and sevens, fives, as I am, they internalize it, which is why I had all these gut issues, being in law enforcement and dealing with all this stress and just internalizing it and being asleep literally to my body and to the fear and just emotions, a lot of stress that I was having. Sixes seek assurance, and they overthink it. So they will seek reassurance through other people with it when this emotion comes up, and sevens deny it. Sevens are your social butterflies. They're your blue personalities. They're like, la la la, rainbows and unicorns, because I don't want to talk about the bad stuff. So I thought this was important to bring this up tonight to say that each of us with this core emotion associated to us, one of us internalizes it, one of us externalizes it, and the other one is asleep to it or denies it according to your type. So let's just, I'm going to cover each type here real quick. And this is like the 50,000 foot view of the Enneagram. There's so much more to this. If you guys Google it, or if you want to reach out to me personally, I can tell you more about it. But one of the things I think is so cool about this is the Enneagram gives you a path for growth. So if you know your type and you Google Enneagram arrows, that's something that's frequently refers to what they call arrows. You have a stress point and you have a growth point. So you have a type that you go to in stress and you have a type that you go to in growth. And it essentially gives you a growth plan. Me as a 5, my growth arrow is to an 8, is to get out of my head and to be more in action, not to be more assertive, to be not in a space of overthinking and overanalyzing and famous for saying, I don't know enough, so I can't, because not 5s are all about knowledge. So, getting into action where the 8s are just like, I'm doing this, we're getting this done, we're making a decision, we're moving, so that's one of the things that's so cool about this is there is an arrow for there's a type, a path for you to go to in growth. So one of the many reasons why I love this tool as as a personal growth tool. But 1s are improvers, like I said, sometimes called perfectionists or reformers. They're ethical, hardworking, reliable, your moral compass friends. They're motivated by a need to improve themselves and the world. Their business superpower, integrity, and high standards. 1s are people when they are healthy. And by the way, I'm speaking when I cover each type tonight, as if they're in their healthiest expression. 1s are people who automatically walk into the room with the know, like, and trust factor, you guys. These are people that people around them understand they're going to do the right thing no matter what. These are people that when they join a business like this and they start promoting it, their friends and their network are going to reach out and say, if you're doing this, I know this is legit. So a blind spot for 1s, I would say, is, and I wanted to throw in a blind spot too, just thinking of this, you can be control freaks as 1s, and I'm married to a 1. I don't know if I mentioned that. And the level 1 that I have who's a 1, it's imperative for them to be able to delegate, to let their people run with things and create things, no matter if it's imperfect, no matter if it's not the way that they would do it, to really empower people to take the reins to do it. 1s are really, really good at parsing out systems. For all of you who are like, I need systems, I need to know, like, how do I onboard somebody? How do I do that? That is their wheelhouse. So if you have someone that joins you on your team and they are 1, really, really empower them to develop a system, to develop all the things, to make the graphics, because they are so good at doing that. 2s, like I said, the yellow personality, the helpers, they're also called the givers. They tend to be your typical BFF, the most caring, hospitable, affectionate, supportive. servant-hearted leaders naturally. They're motivated by a need to be needed. So of course, their superpower is going to be relationships, customer care. I would empower the twos on your team to really like, hey, let's talk about how can we take care of our customers? How can we really do something like fun once a month to recognize the superstars on our team? Like help me come up with a way, like recognition, things like that just comes naturally for twos. And I would say the blind spot for twos, of course, is to be able to tell you what they need. So maybe what I see a lot is you'll get into this business, like your buddy that you joined under or who's joined you or whatever that you run with in this. Sometimes there are two, and they're all about helping you and all about down for the cause, but they will never tell you what they need. You need to be able to look at the twos on your team and say, listen, I want to tell you that I appreciate you. I see you. What can I do for you? Because you wake up every day doing everything for everybody else. What can I do for you? Don't forget to pour into the two. And twos take criticism the hardest out of all of the types, you guys. So kiss them before you give them constructive feedback on something, and then hug them and kiss them some more. Threes, the achiever. You guys, there are so many threes in Plexus, and it just makes sense. Threes are the most image-conscious, success-oriented type, wired for achievement and productivity. They're motivated by a compulsive need to be or appear successful and avoid failure at all costs. Obviously, you want threes on your team, right? These are the quintessential salespeople who are unapologetic about it, because threes are very known for being charismatic, can sell anything, don't mind selling. Very much like life is like a self-marketing campaign. This is who I am. This is where I'm shopping. This is what I'm eating. This is what I'm doing. I see that with threes so much. Like this is just natural for them. And I love that. I love that. They have drive. They have persuasion. Those are their superpowers. This is what I would say with the blind spot. And I see this so much in this business. Thank goodness our compensation plan is not built in a way where we have to compete against each other, right? Can I get an amen for that? We are all one Plexus. We're all on the team. Threes, I want you to hear me. You will get so focused, or you can get so focused on your goals and chasing after the cruise, the mug, the sweatshirt, that you will leave your team in the dust and forget that they're there. So I want to say that there's no competition here, even though it's natural, I think, inherent for threes to be very competitive. Certainly, let's do it, but we're doing it together. By the way, when I mentioned earlier that the Enneagram gives you a path for growth, the growth for the three is to the six. I'm going to talk about the six. You know what the six is? The quintessential team player, the loyalist. That makes sense. So for threes who listen to this, I want you to know the goal is to be a six. Sonia Dudley is a three, and everything about her screams six to me, because she wants to support everybody. She's a team player. She invites, everybody's included. Everybody's got a seat at her table. She is the poster child of a healthy three to me. So, Sonia, if you watch this out there, I love you. The individualist is the four. These are unicorns. If you guys are a four, please drop this in a chat. I don't know many fours in Plexus, or I haven't met many fours. But I don't know how accurate this is, but I've often heard that four is like, you are truly a unicorn. That's probably the least represented number on the Enneagram, is the four. They're very creative, sensitive, and the most emotional, motivated by a need to be unique and special in order to compensate for what they perceive to be as their own shortcomings. So fours have this thing where they naturally feel like there's this fatal flaw, there's something wrong with them. And the superpower for them in this is authenticity and creativity. They're very creative. And fours can't stand people who aren't authentic. So if you do get a four that comes along, the four might have a problem with just the copy and pasting of the posts. You know what I mean? I know, like scripts and things that we give our team to empower our team, and we say, hey, make it your own. You're really going to want to reiterate that to the four, because that might turn them off to be like, wait a minute. I don't want to rubber stamp anything in this business, because that's not me. Fours, I usually find mostly are like musicians, authors, just very creative types, artists. So when you think of like that type of person getting into a business like this, I think they have so much to bring to the table by way of creating things and just really empowering others to be authentic. 5's the investigator. Insightful, curious, independent, your information expert friends. They're motivated by a need to understand the world deeply and to feel capable and competent. I don't know a whole lot of 5's in Plexus at all. And next to 4's, they're probably one of the least, or how do I say it? Like not too many, I don't come across too many 5's, especially female 5's. I would always joke to people over since the years since I've understood the Enneagram, I'm like, you can call me fat, you can call me ugly, but if you call me stupid or ignorant or incompetent, those are fighting words. 5's have just a need to understand things. So if you have 5's on your team, those are the people who are going to want the information, who are like, I know I ran some people off when I first started Plexus because I'd send them an email with 18 different attachments. I'm the person that would read all those attachments and download things and save them to my desktop and create files and all that. You cannot scare me with the info. I know that about myself. I know I would chase people off because of that. But if you have a 5 that comes to you and you know they're a 5, they're going to want all the info. So I just want to say that's something to understand about the 5's. 6's loyalists. I know when I worked in law enforcement, I know I worked around a lot of 6's. I've also been in the volunteer world a lot, or in the area of suicide prevention that I've done for years, that I kind of started in law enforcement and I still do to this day. And I know in that world, I work with a lot of 6's. 6's are people that are down for the cause. I feel like 6's are like the pillars of society. They are the ones who are just your quintessential team player. It's about the community. It's about everybody else. It's not just them. And it's like, what is the mission? We want to be a part of it. They're loyal, responsible, trustworthy, dependable, and cautious. They're motivated by a need to feel security and support, and they're always thinking ahead. They're very good at seeing problems way ahead. So funny thing about the Enneagram, and I haven't said this yet, but when I talk about 6's, it's easy for me to explain this. The best things about our personalities, you guys, our greatest strength can also be our greatest liability and our greatest weakness. I see that with every type. That's the way it is with every type. What I mean by that is that 6's are also referred to as skeptics or devil's advocate type people, because they're so gifted at seeing problems down the road. They are very in tuned to things going wrong. So how does that translate when you're leading a 6 on your Plexus team? I have coached 2 6's in particular that both have quit this business ultimately. Over the last 10 years, I've had 2 6's I know of on my team. And I do this what if dance with them, with coaching them, because everything is what if. Well, what if nobody orders again? Or what if nobody comments on this post? Or what if nobody wants to do the business? Or what if nobody, what if? And that's my response to them. What if? What if? What if? You're going to go on to the next. That's hard for 6's when they're in an average or unhealthy space, is they're so focused on what can go wrong. So I just wanted to say that if you have 6's on your team, the message to get across to them is that you are safe, you are supported, and you got this. Because the 6's are personally on a mission in life to learn how to trust themselves. 7's, these are your blue personalities. These are your social butterflies. These are the people, if they're not having fun, they don't want to do this anymore. These are the people who are going to be like, how do I earn the cruise? How do I earn this bag? How do I do this? Enthusiastic, adventurous, optimistic, fun-loving, spontaneous, motivated by a need to experience as much joy and excitement as possible, always seeking new opportunities and possibilities. Their superpower, they are amazing at being optimistic and imploring others to be optimistic, but also creating vision. You guys have heard people say, like, you have to be able to paint vision for people in this business. 7's, so natural for them to do that. 7's do this thing called reframing. I like to call it flipping the script. And I have a level 1 7 on my team. Most of you guys probably know her. Noelle Rousseau Waller is my level 1. Everybody knows Noelle and Dan in this business. Noelle's a 7. And Noelle will call me, and this is so typical for a 7. She'll say, Steph, I just want to vent for like 30 seconds, and she'll vent and vent, and my ears are red because I'm angry at what she's sharing with me, and she has more than a right to be angry. But within that minute, she will flip it and find the silver lining in how this person who's done her wrong or crossed her just had a bad day or didn't mean to, or, you know, this is just God telling me that I need to just pray for the, you know what I mean? Like, she will flip it, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Noelle, you have a right to be upset. Let's sit in that for a minute. Let's talk about this. 7s don't want to sit in anything uncomfortable like that. They want to, it's constantly, she always says to me, Steph, I know it's not all rainbows and unicorns, because I say that to her often. 7s are in the rainbows and unicorns land a lot. Like, they don't want to be uncomfortable in talking about the hard topics. And I learned this, you know, like in having retreats for my team with 7s. I will do an agenda, and I will make sure they know about what fun stuff we're doing. And this little bitty hour right here is going to be like sitting down and coaching and doing like the uncomfortable stuff. And then we're going to get back to having fun. So if you have 7s on your team, just know that's how they operate and that's how they think. And Rebecca Folks is a 7, by the way. And when I say the few jewels that I've mentioned, you guys, that I tell you their types, is because they've told me what types they are. I'm not assuming that. 8s, the challenger, bold, assertive, protective, very strong-willed, fearless, motivated by a need to be in control of their environment and protect themselves and others from vulnerability. It's often, I will see 8s like work a room because they feel like they have control when they go around table to table and talk to every person, and just kind of, you know, it's just natural for an 8 to do that. 8s have very much like CEO boss energy. My best friend is an 8. And sometimes she'll say things to me and it'll just roll right off her tongue. And I'm like, you know, did you just say that out loud? Like, I'm not talking like anything insulting, but like the 8s are like, just have that way of like your parent or your mom or your sister or sibling or whoever that can just say that thing to you. And it's like, whoa, like they can just speak the truth, because, and it doesn't, they're not even thinking the least bit that this might hurt your feelings or it might land the wrong way. Like, they're just being themselves. I often think 8s get shafted, you guys, for just being, they can truly be hated on for just being themselves, because they naturally show up with this big, bold presence, and they don't know that anybody else has a hard time receiving it. And I personally feel like it's even harder for women who are 8s, right? Because God forbid you're a strong woman that comes into the room, and you know what I mean? So I really admire 8s, and that's my growth path. And that's what my son is, an 8. So God was like, here you go. You're going to have this child who literally is your growth path, all kinds of lessons and ugly cries in that. And number 9, last but not least, is the peacemaker. These are your kumbaya, go along to get along friends. Very calm, warm, accepting, supportive, peaceful, harmonious, motivated by a need to create inner and outer peace, often prioritizing the well-being of others over themselves to maintain harmony. The superpower of the 9 is just that: conflict resolution, harmony, and everybody just getting along. So that is it for my slides. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to blow this up, and I'm going to kick it back over to you, Lisa. I'm going to drop these slides in the chat, and you guys, I was so zoned in on, I did not look at the chat, but I was super trying to be respectful of everybody's time, because it's a lot of information and it's kind of hard to encapsulate all that in less than 30 minutes. So I hope that gives you an overview. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. I really, truly love talking about this stuff.
That was so, Whitney, so good. Stephanie, so good.
Right. So good. Thank you, Stephanie. That was amazing. So much information.
Yes.
Very quickly. Loved it.
Stephanie,
So I'm glad it's recorded.
I have a question real quick. So like if someone's an 8, a hard 8, and their wings a 7, they're also a 9? Because you said they...
Yeah. So I know it's because it seems so polarizing, right? To have like
Yeah,
the
'cause
old bossy 8 with the 9 wing. Yeah. So my best friend who's an 8, she really leans into that wing 7. She's very social, loves to have fun, all the things. And I think that I know that is part of the work for you is to lean into that wing that you don't use so much. So like me being a 5, the least emotional, the most attached emotionally on the Enneagram, and I'm right next to the 4, who's the most emotional.
yeah,
So that's been part of the work I've been trying to do because we all have like personal truths that we claim for ourselves through the years. And something I've always said is that I'm not a creative person. And I've changed that story. I've changed that about myself over the, since I've really started doing this work where I'm like, no, I am creative. And I'm leaning into that. So, and 4s are super creative. So I would implore people to really look at their wings, and there's definitely going to be one that feels easier to lean into versus the other. And that's part of the work with this, is to lean into that other wing that you're not so, comfortable
that
with.
1000% makes sense with my numbers. Like, wow.
Yeah. Are you an 8, Lisa?
I'm an 8, 7, 9, and I need to really be more of a 9, I feel like, because I am definitely not a 9.
Yeah.
That's where I need to probably lean into more. Yeah, so wow, that's so good. It's so interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. It's
really,
a
really
great,
good.
like I said, it's a tool, you guys. So I know you wanted to do some giveaways, Whitney, and close everybody
Mhm.
out. While you're doing that, I'm going to grab the link for these slides and throw it in the chat so you guys can have this. So,
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for staying on a little extra. I know it was worth the extra time we invested tonight. So I've already picked a winner. Melissa P is my winner for the cute little pink life hat and the little Plexus swag bracelets. So Melissa, if you can message me your address, I'll get this in the mail. Okay. It is brand new, I promise. I just put it on to show it. So yeah, get me your address, Melissa. And thanks, Lisa. This was great.
Yeah, this is so good, Stephanie. Thank you so much. And I'll have the recording for you guys to pass on to your teams. And like Stephanie said, if you have questions, you can reach out to her. But it's so good. So, so good. We appreciate your time, Stephanie, and I'm going to go ahead and close it out. You have anything to say, Stephanie?
no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, anytime, if you guys ever want to do this again, do more in depth or do more like a workshop type thing, reach out to me. I love this stuff and I love talking about it, and I'd be honored to do it. So,
Okay, perfect, you guys. All right, we'll see y'all next week. Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks, Whitney.
Thanks so much. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
bye-bye.